Connect to Success with me, Ashley Owens, your personal networking concierge. We're here at RVN TV on Connect to Success. So we talk to our professional networkers in the greater Philadelphia and South Jersey area. And today we have the pleasure and the privilege of interviewing Kelly Meerbott of You Loud and Clear. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Ashley. You know I would do anything for you.
I love
being
your
a
face.
power networker yourself. I mean, I feel like I'm just kind of like visiting the guru of power networking on the mountain, and I'm just here being with you. So.
I'm just a show pony who likes attention. That's pretty much what's going on here. But do me a favor, tell people who you are and what you do and the benefit of working with you.
So, it's interesting. I was just having a conversation with a new colleague, and I was saying that I really don't like my title of leadership coach because it really doesn't speak to what I really do. And what I do is I'm a catalyst for transformation, and whatever that looks like in your mind, whether it's, being a better leader and developing your executive presence, or, healing the wounds that you have inherently in you to make you step into your power and come out of what I like to call being hijacked by your ego.
Right.
What I basically do is I get to know a human or an organization, find out what that looks like, what an organization or a person looks like in their ideal state, meaning at your personal or professional best. I try to step into your skin and experience the world as you do as closely as I can.
Right.
And then I turn up the volume on what's magnificent about you. I'm not here to change you.
Yeah.
I'm here to just make what's good even better and play to your strengths and make sure you're leading with that. So it's as simple as that.
So when somebody calls you, typically what problem are they having?
Well, right now, it's a lot of stress and anxiety, and it's about dealing with a mind shift and dealing with whatever is triggering them right now. So, for instance, if I back it up, I have a client that is 8 years old. They're a 40-person organization. They're located here in Philadelphia. And the co-founders were having challenges relating to each other because they started their business in grad school, and it's 8 years later, and they started their business in a garage, and now they have a large, building. Well, going from that kind of growth, that trajectory, there are growing pains, and you have to deal with this. Before you can move forward in a profitable, productive, and positive way. So, I really got to know them as humans and understood what their strengths were. And we played to their strengths and really aligned them around mission, vision, values, reminded them of what their purpose was, meaning beyond making money, why is this role worth doing? So what drives you? Because, right now is a perfect example. It's like, if you're being knocked off your center or things are coming at you, if you align with your purpose and you're anchored in that, it's a lot easier to move forward.
Right.
If you're not, if you have no idea of why you're doing what you're doing, then it's easy to get lost. So, a lot of what I do is healing and dealing with wounds and traumas, almost like a therapist, although I'm not a therapist. I have a lot of training and certification, and in fact, I just got a certification in trauma-informed therapy.
Wow.
I do a lot of work alongside wonderful therapists and wonderful psychiatrists out there. In fact, I like my clients to have kind of a support staff around them, meaning taking a holistic approach to their leadership as if they were high performance athletes, so you have somebody who works on your mind, somebody who works on your body, somebody who helps you with your emotions to make sure that you're really firing on all pistons. So that's a long way of saying I lock arms with amazing, inspiring people and help them be their personal best. And the same thing with organizations. I'm not there to change it. I'm there to just make things better.
How long have you been in business?
So it'll be 12 years next January. I've been doing this work probably 22 years, but I've been on my own for 12.
Wow. And so when you decided to take the leap into this next step 12 years ago, what was the need for that? Meaning in your own journey, when you decided to go on your own and realize that this was a need that a lot of cultures and different, businesses were having, challenges within the culture that businesses were having, what made you decide to take it upon yourself to go solo in that space?
Well, it was decided for me.
Oh, okay, fun.
I was part of, so it was January 20th, 2009, and the change came in the form of a manila envelope with my name written on it.
Fun.
And it was delivered to me in this format. You have 10 days to review this with your attorney and sign it. And I was completely blindsided.
Yeah.
And honestly, I went through the grieving process. I was working in corporate. I had worked in corporate for about 11 and a half years. And I thought, my destiny was to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
Clearly, that was not in the greater plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, Ashley, would not have left if my hand wasn't forced.
Right.
I was fortunate that I was the first round of layoffs, so I had a severance package and unemployment, which gave me a little bit of time to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And I knew I was good at sales and marketing and training and development, and there were certain patterns that if you looked at my career, pointed all to coaching. Like every organization I ever worked with, I was immediately put into leadership.
Yeah.
Or very shortly after I was hired, I was promoted into leadership. And I was always part of these brainstorming groups around solutions or culture changes, and never knew why. Clearly, I know now. But I think really the defining moment was when after I was laid off. My husband was stationed in Guantanamo Bay working with the 9/11 detainees.
Yeah.
And he got on the phone with me and he's like, "Are you done?" And I was like, "What do you mean, am I done?" And he's like, "Are you done working for stupid bosses?" Because every boss, with the exception of the very first one I had out of college, was either unethical or just would run a toxic environment or do things like they would pit people against each other for, their own amusement. I mean, just not great situations. And I was like, "Oh, sure, Brian, it's that easy to just kind of snap your fingers and start a business." Right. So after that, we were living in Virginia Beach at the time because he was in the military. I Googled how to start a business in Virginia Beach, and I literally followed the steps and started my own business. Now, when I tell this story in front of people that, hire me to speak, I say, please don't start your business this way, because I had $75 in my bank account. 40 went to my business license and 35 went to gas up my Prius. And, eventually we were in the black 4 months after I started the business, which is great because I had no other choice. Yeah. And I think at that time, ignorance is bliss. I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was like, okay, I'll just try this and see what happens. And that was it. But it also came in the form of this wonderful coach. Her name is Sharice McCrory. She's out of a small town outside of Chicago. And she kept challenging me. She was like, "You're good at marketing, you're good at sales, but it doesn't light you up inside. I think you'd be a great coach." And honestly, I was like, "You're crazy. I don't even know what a coach is." I mean, in my mind, I thought it was like, people sitting cross-legged on the floor chanting for paychecks in their mailbox. Really, that's what I thought. Yeah. And then she said this to me. This was another defining moment. She said, "No, what if you change the corporate conversation based on how you show up?" And I was like, that's interesting. Because I had seen what not to do in corporate, right? I had seen my first boss, Lee Rowand, who has now become a colleague and a friend. He was a great leader. Was one of those people when I first met him said, "You're not going to be here long. You're going to leverage this into something better," which is exactly what happened. But after my work with him, every other boss I had really didn't have the greater good of all concerned involved, which was great, honestly, because our brains learn in contrast, right? Right. What happens is we see what not to do and we do the opposite, right? That's how we learn. So because of those bosses that weren't the best, I learned management skills on based on what not to do, because they were showing me. So I eventually, started coaching and got my certification at Sapien Harbor Coaching Academy in Chicago, which has since closed down. And, I've been coaching since 2010. And I can honestly tell you, this is what I was called to do. This is not a title for me. It's my vocation. Right.
So your story comes from a position of where you saw you found a need and you fixed it.
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, has been the most common challenge that people have when they work with you, if there is one, or it could be a handful of some commonalities?
I'm a big believer. Byron Katie says there are no new stressful thoughts; they're all recycled, and it's really. I mean, if you want to break it down to brass tacks and basics, it's mindset shifting.
Yeah.
It's beliefs that we've picked up that are not ours. And what do I mean by that? It's, things that, whether it comes from cultural conditioning or family of origin or what society is saying we should be doing right now, or, a religious belief system that we've just willy-nilly just bought into without questioning it or inquiring into it. And just kind of walking through life, sleepwalking. So, what I do is really gently come alongside people and say, okay, there's a fire ahead of us. We're not walking around it. I'm going to link arms with you, walk through it, and show you that you're fireproof, but you're not going to do it alone. Right. And by shifting mindsets, really, I only coach from a place that I know. So, anything that I ask my clients to do, I beta test it on myself first.
Right, yeah.
And I do what works.
Yeah.
But it always comes back to mind. It comes back to mind and whether or not you're being hijacked in your ego. And when I talk about your ego, I mean the beliefs, emotions, behaviors that we put forth as whatever facade, we've decided to put on. But really at our core, we're all the same. We're loving essences, just trying to learn whatever lessons we need to learn on this planet until we move on. And that really, it doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or the head of a Fortune 500 organization, you all have the same kind of thoughts and beliefs, like, I'm not worth it, or I have to prove that I need to be here, or, I have to raise my voice in order to be an advocate because and I do that in a form of yelling because that's what I learned from my parents. I mean, it's me gently kind of bringing into awareness what these behaviors are so that as they continue to persist, people can see them coming, make a different choice and get different results. Because everything we choose, from stress to anxiety, is a choice.
Right.
I mean, we can choose how we react to things.
Right.
Now, I say that knowing that there are some people who need certain things to help them function the way the rest of us function naturally, meaning maybe our brains don't make enough serotonin, so we need a certain chemical to, and I don't have any judgment about that. I think that there's a lot of stigma on pharmaceuticals, and I don't think it's accurate. I mean, it would be like me saying to a diabetic, don't use your insulin. That makes no sense. You know what I mean? If you need something to help you function properly, then you need to go to your medical provider and have them help you work it out, whether that's your primary care physician or your psychiatrist or your therapist.
So, Kel,
there are great people out there.
I want to continue this conversation. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to extend the conversation about what Kelly's niche is, how she works with her clients in this capacity, but also her tactical tips and practical takeaways and networking. We'll be right back.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacqueline. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacqueline.com to book an appointment today.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
And welcome back to Connect to Success with me, Ashley Owens, your personal networking concierge. I have Kelly Meerbott here, who is talking about mindset change, who's talking about leadership development, but really about her compassion and passion for coaching. I'd love to go more into your expertise here, Kel, about what advice would you give somebody who is starting their business, who is really good at what they do with the service or a product that they're providing. They've got their back end stuff done, they've got their QuickBooks done, like they Googled how to start a business. You shouldn't do that yet, but they got their research done, they've done everything they needed to, but they're not positioning themselves as either a subject matter expert or confident enough to go out and put themselves out there in a networking capacity. First of all, have you come across that in some of your clients? And if you have, what advice, or at least can you give us an idea of what advice you could give to somebody in that current position?
Sure. Okay. So there's a couple of things.
Yeah.
And I'll speak from my own experience. So when I started my business the first year, and this was in Norfolk, Virginia, I joined every organization I possibly could.
Yeah.
Most organizations will allow you to go to at least one of their events without paying anything. Mm-hmm. And I think in the first year, it's trial and error to figure out which groups align with you, who you are as a human. So first of all, do that.
Shop around.
I did it twice because I moved my business to Pennsylvania, to Philadelphia in 2013.
Yeah.
So I would do that, or find people like Ashley or like me that have memberships to certain things and are willing to take a guest.
Yeah.
One of the things that really terrifies me is the initial walking into an event.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it is. I just get very anxious. Once I'm in there and I'm talking, I'm fine, but it's the initial walking in.
Yeah.
So, if that's the case, bring a buddy, bring a wing person. Ashley Owens is one of the most fantastic wing person I have ever met. So,
sweet.
Definitely reach out to her. And have a bank of questions that you can pull from. So one of the questions and believe it or not, this is going to sound weird, but I hate when people ask me what I do.
I hate it too. I usually make it up. I'm like, pie maker. That's what I do. Show pony, lady of the night. Pick your choice. Go ahead, continue.
The reason I hate that
I know.
is because it doesn't show who you are as a human.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that I love to ask people is, what do you like to do? What's one of your favorite hobbies, or what do you do in your free time?
Yeah.
And what that does is it really gets past the PR scripted answer that they have like in their minds of what they're supposed to be saying in a networking event. And what ended up happening is this woman, she was this sweet older woman that I met at a networking event. And I said, what do you like to do in your free time? And she said to me, told me for about 45 minutes that she's been collecting T-shirts that she's making into a quilt for her first grandbaby.
Wow.
Well, she's been collecting her daughter's T-shirts. This is her daughter's grandbaby. And I said, okay, so tell me about quilting and tell me about this. And it takes a lot of precision. Oh, by the way, what do you do for work? Oh, I'm a CFO. Okay,
right.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to be so precise. So have questions like that are really going to dig into the human and the emotional piece of who people are, because people connect emotionally, right? We're talking a lot about connection right now. People buy emotionally. So guess what? That woman who was a CFO became a client of mine because I took the time to sit there and listen to her and really get to know her as a human, not as the CFO of whatever organization she was part of.
Right.
The other thing you asked about is how to position yourself. So one of the things that I did was I pulled the people who knew, loved, and trusted me the best. You know what I mean? In my life, I took 5 of them and I said, when you think of me, what do you think of off the top of your head intuitively?
Right.
Okay, what do you think of me in this coaching context? And then they answered these questions and I crafted like kind of a pitch, and I hate to say it like that.
Right.
But
yeah, I know what you mean.
Based on those answers, just to start. Now, you know, I would say I'm a leadership coach and I work with organizations for change and blah, 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 blah. That didn't feel right to me. Again, there's a lot of trial and error. Don't be afraid to try things out.
Right.
You know, turning up the volume on what's magnificent about you is really more in alignment with who I am. And now I've added, I bring the heart and soul back into corporations. That's what I do. I go back to that heart and soul centered space, you know, and leading from that, meaning, you know, what do you believe in? Who are you? Who are you as an organization? Mission, vision, values, you know?
It's such a hard thing to ask too, but it's such a brave thing to ask as well, because then you're getting to the emotional driver that maybe that's why they started the business. Maybe that's what's hard about the business is because it's an emotional, you know, product. And, you know, there's a situation where if you've got a bunch of different people or if you've got an owner that brought on additional people, now there's an ego thing, right? Or there is a power dynamic, or it was always done in this way. And so how do you maintain all of that in you know, a coaching session or even working with you in that capacity? It's so important because it can significantly change the dynamic and the success of the business, because business is easy, people are harder.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and that's what the foundation is. I once met a consultant that said something that I thought was really powerful, was saying that, you know, he goes, I didn't go to school for business, I went to school for human behavior and psychology. He goes, you just need to know people. You just need to know people, and everything else will follow. And so it's such a powerful statement because it's so true. People sometimes see organizations and big companies as just the entity, but within it are the people that are actually driving the next step. So if you can do it one person at a time, or one organization at a time, or one, you know, business unit at a time, it's like it spreads like a virus. It spreads like, you know, chills throughout your body. You know, how do you start with, like, you know, the inception of the issue? So tell me more about a time when you've worked with so take me through like a case study of when you worked with a client. So what was the problem and how were you able to help it and fix it?
Okay, let me see.
Should have prepped you. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry. No, that's okay. I'm just trying to think of what I can pull from right now. I'll give you my very first client.
Oh, yay. Those are fun. Okay.
And, you know, due to my NDAs, I can tell you what the industry was. I can't tell you who it is.
Got it.
So this is a former CIA agent who went into counterterrorism and corporate espionage. And what that means is, yes, there are organizations out there that spy on other organizations to get intellectual property or steal business.
Perfect. Fun.
Now, I'm an idealist and I am a, you know, eternal optimist. But so when he was telling me these things, I was like, wait, that actually happens? He's like, oh, yeah. When he came to me, he said, you know, I'm making $4,000 a month. And I was like, okay, well, what's your revenue goal that you want? And he said, I want to make $25,000 in income a month. Well, we sat together, we co-created a plan of attack and a plan of action, and we followed that plan. And basically, I come alongside people like a GPS saying, okay, I'm holding your larger vision, right? I'm holding it here. Mm-hmm. If we're going towards it and I see you going like this, my responsibility as your coach is to say, remember, this is our vision. I see you going like this. Is this going to contribute to the end result that you want?
Right.
Or is it a distraction?
Right.
So we worked together for 16 months, and in his 16th month, he made $132,000 in revenue. Wow. And has been since then, I mean, we still talk. That was back in 2010.
Wow.
He's hired on a team. He's gotten very big government contracts. I mean,
wow.
all of this. And a lot of my job, Ashley, is filtering out the bullshit noise, really.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know, like people who are unsuccessful, giving them advice that all of a sudden they're locked into as the truth, which is not true. You know, we've all run into those people that give us unsolicited advice, and then you ask them what their industry is, and they're unemployed. It's like, why are you taking advice from them? Don't do that. And again, I don't give advice. I just share information. And what does that mean? That means, like, listen,
great.
if I see a client, you know, after doing this for 22 years, patterns do emerge. I'll say, hey, like, this guy wanted to grow his revenue. This is what we did. These are the steps we took. You can do the same thing. And I'm seeing the same patterns emerge. This is what he did. This is what I've done. You know, it might be a good solution for you. But I always tell my clients, if I say something that doesn't resonate with you, don't take it. Don't take it. Take what resonates with you. And what I mean by that is it's true for you at your core. You know, beyond all the noise, that inner wisdom that's inside all of us, if it resonates on that level, then take it, implement it, and let's execute. If it doesn't, that's okay. You know, let's scrap it and put it aside. But I will tell you, 9 times out of 10, they will pick that up eventually. I mean, I had an email from a client 2 years after we finished working together, and she said, everything you told me came true. Everything.
Wonderful.
And again, it's not about me being right or wrong. It's just about, you know, knowing human behavior and observing it. Like the gentleman said to you, I don't know business, I know humans. You know, and I also know that hurt people. So if you're a leader and you haven't healed the wounds and you're bleeding all over your staff, you better take a look internal and get what you need to do to heal yourself.
So if you could give a top 3, we're going to wrap up in just a moment, but if you can give your top 3 tips around this topic, especially if you see somebody maybe even going through imposter syndrome, maybe going through a little bit of identity crisis, especially right now, and, you know, feeling of loneliness and that they're by themselves, it can absolutely translate into how they communicate and how they build relationships. So if you can give your top 3 things that people can resonate with now, what would those be?
One is turn up the volume on your self-care. So make sure you're sleeping properly. Make sure that the consumption through this, and this is limited to only good things. If you're feeling isolated, if you're feeling lonely, reach out to your healthcare provider. There is no shame in that. The thing that this situation with COVID-19 has done is it has taken away some of the stigma of mental health. So reach out to your mental health care provider. And the third thing is know that you're not alone. None of these things that we're talking about are only inherent to Kelly or Ashley. Everybody deals with them at some point. No new stressful thoughts. Everybody's had them. And the great thing about that is, you know, it's not a new problem. You can solve it. And then the other thing I would say is if you're the problem, you're the solution. There's nothing outside of you that is causing the issue. It's your reaction to them. It's the projector, right? So everything outside of you that may be chaotic, as long as you are stable in your core and really taking care of yourself, nothing should be able to knock you off your core. And if it does, then, you know, take a hard look, take some personal inventory and see why you're getting triggered. Or, you know, simple, reach out for me. I always gift my first 60 minutes you know, to everybody. I do that because I want to help as much as I can.
So Cal, how can people find you for those first 60 minutes?
Sure. KellyMeerbott.com. Just log on, put in your information, and when me or a member of our team will reach out to you.
Fantastic. Kelly, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate all of the wisdom that you gave and how important it is to stay mentally healthy, how to really invest in yourself. I think everyone needs to hear that often and continue on a continuous basis, because we do forget those moments that make us vulnerable and make us human. So thank you so much for being here today, Cal.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for watching Connect to Success on RVN TV, 12:30 on Thursdays during your lunch break. I am your host, Ashley Owens. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, please make sure you reach out to me, Ashley@ashleysys.com. I'd love to hear about your tactical tips and practical takeaways in networking, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.